So there it is. Good evening, everyone.
Hi,
Glad to
everyone.
be with you again tonight. Tuesday night Q&A. Hello, Jane. Hello, Sky. Good to see y'all. Um, Seems like it's been a while. It's just been a hectic couple of days for me. I think Ellen's had her hands full as well. But it's good to
Always.
be back with you. So obviously joined by the lovely, gracious, sweet, kind, patient, enduring E-Train
That would be me, I think.
and her two
Also,
co-stars, Chunk and Talou.
which are outside right now.
And Rudy, is he outside as well?
He's outside with them. It's not
She
super,
has a little
super cold.
she has a little zoo going on, so they're
Yes.
all they're all in good company.
Yes, yes. We've got Miss Jane. Hi, good evening. And then we've got, of course, Sky. Hi.
Good to see y'all. Um, this is Tuesday night Q&A. So this is really y'all's night. If you've got some questions, comments, topics you want to talk about, I don't have a whole lot pre-prepared.
I
So
can always fill in for that. But thank you for watching on Rumble and YouTube, of course, and X. So I am watching all the things. So just if you have a question, comment, let me know.
yeah, the ones from YouTube will pop up on the stream here.
hmm
The other ones Ellen will relay. So don't hesitate to ask. And am I the only one that still, when somebody says X, it takes me a second to think, oh, that's Twitter's new name? Yeah, it is
I think
still
it's a
Twitter to me.
I think it's a boomer thing.
It may be, but at least we don't eat Tide Pods.
That's true. My
So,
generation didn't either, so don't go there with me.
well, we raised y'all correctly.
hmm
Y'all are the ones that failed.
You just abandoned us. That was it. The abandonment caused all
we
kinds of
didn't we
issues.
didn't we didn't abandon y'all. We just taught you independence.
Uh huh. Okay.
We taught you self
Some
reliance.
some parenting would have been nice.
Personal strength,
Got
determination,
lots of that.
innovation,
Got
ability
lots
to
of that too.
adapt, improvise, and overcome.
I learned
So,
those lessons, but some did not. It's okay.
trying to scratch my back here. I'm not actually having a seizure. It just feels awful good. Y'all you ever do that and not really? Anyway, paying attention. Dogs, there's some rumble here in Canada about TikTok closing offices in Toronto, etc.
Huh, did not know that.
Um, yeah, there's been some scuttlebutt about countries limiting, canceling, making TikTok illegal because it's used, by China to gather information, quote unquote spy. And there's a stranger. Who the hell is that?
Hang on
I,
the
vague,
shoot. The
I
family's all
vaguely
here.
remember that name. Hello, Carson. Damn good to
And
see you.
and there's another one.
Hello, Melissa. Welcome back. A Melissa and Carson are members of the family as well. Jane and Sky. Uh, Melissa's been with her mom for a little while, so
Then
we've been
she had
missing her.
some and then she had some events that Green Bean could not go to.
Yeah, Green Bean is Melissa's co-star. So if you haven't seen or met or been introduced properly to Green Bean, that it probably won't take long.
Nope.
And Carson is feeding birds by hand. Carson, we're expecting some video or pictures of those birds.
I already have some.
Do you?
Mhm.
Well, we might have to throw some of those up.
I'm in the
Um,
loop, man.
I'm expecting to see like an eagle, not a chickadee.
Well, you're gonna be disappointed. And Jane, yes, I remember that commercial. Um, And my parents had no idea where I was.
I used to think that commercial when do you know where your children are? It was hilarious.
Right before the 10 o'clock news, they would play that commercial. My parents had no idea.
Yeah, I saw a comment by a guy in England talking about, some of the violence and all going on. He was saying when he was a kid, he lived in Oxford, which is about an hour's 2 hours train ride from London. He said, he was 10, 11 years old. He'd hop on the train by himself, go to London, spend the day, and then, ride the train back. I've in some Scandinavian countries, they'll mom will be walking their baby and they'll just leave it in the stroller outside while they run into the store. Can you imagine doing that in New York or Chicago or parts of the country?
Wilmington, for that matter, or Carolina
Wilmington, yeah.
Beach. No.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Melissa. He didn't send me those pics. He may have sent them to you.
I think I just got them on my phone. Can you resend them to my email?
Who?
Melissa. She
Okay.
texted them to me. So I could do it off my phone, but it'll take me a few minutes.
You can share his BJ pics. I'm just not sure what BJ means at this point.
I'm going to go with Beetlejuice.
Oh, you mean GB? I thought you meant Carson because he was like, I don't remember sending pictures of that. That's too good. I was on the same flow that you were, Carson. I was like, okay, that will be interesting. Beetlejuice.
Yeah. So let me maintain the dignity
God.
and honor of this show. Beetlejuice.
I was gone for 3 days. My parents didn't wonder where I was. I was like 10 or 11 at the time. I'm telling you, they had no idea where we were. Um, Beetlejuice. And then
Thank you,
Carson.
Melissa.
BJ is something I want. She can always count on Carson.
Yeah,
And
Carson
then
is
Melissa.
obviously a Beetlejuice fan.
Hmm.
We'll just leave it at that.
Oh my God. Y'all crack me up.
So it's good to be with you tonight. Obviously going to be one of those nights. Just send it to moffatonmoney@gmail.com. Melissa's asking what email.
Yep.
So, and Carson, if you got some bird pics, send them to moffatonmoney@gmail.com.
Or some BJ pics. Either way.
No, not putting. I have my limits.
Oh. Your squeeze likes Beetlejuice. Well, good. Melissa's got some great, great, great pics and video that she is emailing, which is awesome.
Yeah, I believe it's from her friend's Halloween party, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember correctly.
It
And,
is.
for those of you that don't know, Melissa is our Hollywood insider. And as you can imagine, she and some of her friends have modest. I mean, there's kind of a truth there.
Y'all are cracking me up tonight. Oh my goodness.
She's not altogether wrong, but she and her friends have some mad makeup skills. Trying to measure my words very carefully now.
You should.
These are from the Afterlife Experience. Now, what's the Afterlife Experience? I was thinking it was a party you went to.
It was a party. There was some Beetlejuice.
There was definitely some Beetlejuice, as you're about to see when the pics arrive. I will throw those up. Carson, yours too, if you've got some of the bird pics.
I can't send them from my phone because they're too big.
Yeah, and I could do it, but I'd be distracted for a few minutes trying to get that
Mhm.
done. So Um, they ought to be arriving here shortly.
Regardless, until then, what do we got?
Couple of things that I saw that I thought were somewhat modestly interesting or unusual. Now, I don't know how much some of y'all fly. Um, but I saw this. Spirit Airlines, which, a lot of people use for
Mhm.
non-international travel, for domestic travel around, the Northern Hemisphere, closed today at, I don't know, 3.25, 333. But after hours, it's dropped to about half of that, $1.50. There is speculation it's about to declare bankruptcy.
Hmm.
So, that would be, kind of sad. And Spirit has been rumored for a little while to be in economic trouble. And you can see here over the past year, the stock price has trended down. And then it had this sudden jump, even jumped today. And then tonight, it's crashed in half again. So, that's just kind of a little demonstration of how rumors impact the market. You can see the steady economic decline. Here was, I don't know if many of y'all knew, but one of the Spirit airline planes was shot at the other day as it was
From
landing. I don't remember the city, but the plane had
by
bullet holes.
I meant by whom?
Don't know.
Oh, okay.
Don't know. And so the stock dropped a little bit on that, rebounded some today. And then, bad news after the close, after trading hours, normal trading hours, that it may file bankruptcy.
Moffat, do you have hiccups again?
I do.
Oh shit.
Sorry.
It's all right.
But huh, one thing I do have open with, oh, come on now. It's not that hard.
Okay, Melissa said she sent them. This is an event in Hollywood, not our Pug Day of the Dead party or the Rescue Halloween party. And then Carson, for clarification, I am saying that the birds are in videos, not that I distribute BJ videos. Y'all are in rare form
Oh,
tonight. I love it.
jeez.
Love it.
All right, let me save.
It's going to take you a sec.
Yeah, sorry.
But guys, I know that, Clay and I do the yes or no thing. Sometimes y'all like that and like to participate. Well, I got a new expansion pack. So I think we kind of went through everything else. So it should be fun. I
All
can
right,
send
let's
some
try
BJ.
this if that works.
Oh, Lord.
Here,
You have to share screen.
I am, but I've got to stop the screen I'm sharing and reshare another
I
screen
know. I was
after
about to remove.
downloading the files. Yeah. All right, here's BJ1.
Beetlejuice. It's
Ta-da!
GB.
That's the well-known GB with the cute little tie, pinstripe outfit.
Just like Beetlejuice.
He looks like he's waiting on dinner, actually.
And there's Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice.
There's Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice. The one Beetlejuice doesn't look too certain about this.
That is true.
Melissa, I think your dog's a little concerned there about what's on the menu. And then there we go.
Same one.
Now is that might be an
That's
edge of
Melissa.
Melissa there, yeah.
Hmm.
So at first, I saw some of the pictures with Beetlejuice was holding Green Bean, and I thought that was Melissa for a second. So
No.
I'm like, well, this one's pretty obvious. The other one was I was looking at a small pic, from a distance, didn't blow it up. So yeah, I thought I would go ahead and admit that my facial recognition skills are not all that hot.
No.
And Melissa's offering to send BJ videos, so this just keeps getting better.
I know, right?
Carson, fuck, who's shooting at airplanes in the U.S.? Helicopters that are destroying old supplies is another
Aid.
matter.
Aid
Aid
supplies.
supplies is another
Hmm.
matter. I don't know if y'all heard this, but information has come out that over the past couple months, FEMA has only delivered one mobile home. And of course, they have thousands in storage at different locations. You
Meanwhile,
think there's a need up in the mountains of East Tennessee and Western Carolina?
the Amish have built like 15 homes.
Yeah. They have literally come down with their wagons and tools or whatever and are just building small homes in remote places. Another thing that I've heard from several people is that FEMA is closing down some of the shelters and the
Mm.
families have nowhere to go.
Oh, they've been gone.
Well,
They're like,
they've been closing them down. The families have nowhere to go. And the state of North Carolina, I don't know about Tennessee, the state of North Carolina is saying they will take the children.
yep.
Can you imagine losing your home, possibly losing spouse, parents, whatever? You're with some relative in a shelter, basically a gymnasium with cots. FEMA closes them down, and then the state come and takes your child and puts it in a foster house that may be the other side of the state.
It's not even just that, Clay. They're taking them from tents. If you're living in a tent, and let's say you have stuff like you have a heater, you've got,
Yeah.
you've got some food, you've got a way to cook, but you're in a tent, they will still take your children.
Yep. So it just seems like the government is determined to hammer some of these people just into absolute submission.
Carson, I think you mean patriots.
Yeah, and that's really another unsung kind of hero. We talked about the Amish, with their sacrifice and donation of their time and efforts. There's a lot of, like Carson said, we call them rednecks, working class people. Coal miners, for example, from West Virginia brought down some of their excavators, some of their dozers, other heavy equipment. And they literally, where roads have completely washed out, they have, cleared off the rocks, laid a foundation. They're cutting, into the side of mountains and rebuilding the road. Now it's
They
not,
were.
it's not like a perfect highway, but it's a dirt road that finally aid and cars and trucks can get through.
They were.
Go
But
ahead.
now the government has shut down the quarries to them. They can't get rock anymore and they can't do it with mud.
Yeah, the ones I saw were taking rock from the river and moving it, laying it down, and then using that as, to extend the washed out side of the road a little bit to create more of a shoulder, more of a foundation to hold the dirt that they were filling in place. But they have made tons of progress.
Hmm.
So far, I haven't seen one single road that FEMA has opened or cleared the way for. The state is close to opening a portion of the interstate, one lane, which will enable, some emergency traffic. It obviously won't allow the full traffic to go through, but
Right.
it's a step in the right direction. And, they were talking it might take a year, 2 years, and looks like they're going to be able to get at least a basic road open in, a few months.
Okay, Carson, I think we had a misunderstanding. Ellen, who says rednecks aren't patriots. No, I'm saying they are patriots. That is the definition of redneck, a patriot.
Yeah, yeah. Ellen was just being a little bit more gracious with her terminology.
Hmm.
See, she's a Yankee. She thinks redneck is a slur. I'm from the South, and to us, redneck is like kind of a compliment. And so,
I am from North Carolina. I know you say
north,
north. I am
north,
south of the Mason Dixon
north,
line.
north. Ellen's from the north.
No. And he knows this pisses me off so badly when he says this kind of crap
No,
because my family fought in every war since 1750.
on the losing side, on the cheating side. Damn Yankees.
What? I am not a Yankee. No one can listen to my voice and say that I'm a Yankee. No one. No one. No one.
Sky, GB is so damn cute. He is a funny little mullet, isn't he? He is cute. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the show, we are a very dog friendly, very pet friendly show. So
Yes.
if you've got guinea pigs, if you've got cats, whatever, bring it on. We enjoy seeing the extended family. Carson, to be fair, when somebody
Dang.
is wearing character makeup and an outfit, it is more difficult to tell who it is. Bingo. Thank you, Carson.
You're
Carson doesn't
saving Clay's
usually
ass.
take my side, but glad to see he's
Carson.
right for once.
Carson, what the hell, man?
Jane, the Amish come down in a bus. They are allowed to ride in vehicles, not just drive. The only reason I said wagons is because I saw some actually in the mountains up in North Carolina in a wagon. So I don't know if they maybe borrowed one or whatever, but I was thinking, they had
Some Amish do live up in Western North Carolina.
didn't know that. Wasn't sure. I was thinking they were mostly Pennsylvania, Ohio, maybe some in West Virginia.
The vast majority, yes.
Yeah, that's still a heck of a ride. Carson, Ellen, I'm in the redneck province.
There you go.
Yes. Carson's up in Canada. And so they have their own version of rednecks. And Carson would be close. Carson, I was just listening to a song that's appropriate for people trying to kidnap children. Oh God, what could this be?
There is no telling. In Carson, but also have ancestry from the Revolution and the Confederate side of the Civil War. Well, why did y'all move up to Canada? What in the world?
Melissa, we'll send vids when I get back on my computer. We look forward to them. I'm sure they're pretty damn good. Melissa sent us some videos before.
Mhm.
And, it's kind of like a professional production. And to give you an example of Melissa's work.
Show me the money! Mm-hmm.
That is from Melissa. So we are eternally grateful to Melissa for putting up the best swoosh in the business. Carson, if you're looking for a good way to support, look at Grindstone Ministry.
Why do you keep undoing what I put up there?
I'm just going through the list here, one by one, taking them in
Would you
order.
let me handle
jump
this?
around. You kind of jump around.
No, I'm doing based on what we're talking about.
Okay. Turncoats
Fled to Canada.
Yeah, they moved to the north, kind of like Ellen.
Moffat? Okay, so explain what a turncoat is.
A traitor.
Carson, you hear that, right? Mhm. Pretty sure I just scared a deer into the woods. And the song was "Go to Sleep" by Eminem. I have no respect for Eminem anymore, ever. He got paid 1.8 million to show up for Kamala.
To endorse her. What's
Yes.
funny is I just saw, um, who's Oprah.
Yeah,
It was rumored that Oprah was paid $1 million for her,
it was.
appearance and endorsement, and so she's
Beyonce
going
got
down the
10.
road. She's going down the road, caught by, a Instagram streamer or whatever,
Mhm,
TikToker, and they ask her, "Were you paid $1 million to endorse Kamala?" And she says, "No, I wasn't paid a dime. Wasn't paid a dime." And then if you run a campaign, you have to list all of your payments.
mhm,
And so somebody digs up the Harris campaign statements, and there's two $500,000 payments to Harpo Productions, which is Oprah's company.
mhm.
So,
It's Oprah spelled backwards in case y'all missed that.
yes. So, don't know how that's gonna end, but thought that was kind of interesting.
Yep. Hang on. Now my family moved up for other reasons. Uh-huh. Prove it. You know we love to give you shit, Carson.
That's hell, we love to give everybody shit.
We do. Even each other.
Yeah, it's if we love you, if we care about you, if we like you, then we're probably gonna give you shit. If we don't, then probably won't even talk about you.
Yeah.
So, that's the cool thing. We've got a good little family. People we've come to know and love, and that's just part of the joy of the show. And we love you guys. Truly do. And the things, little bits of your life that y'all share with us, like Melissa sharing pictures of Green Bean and some of her activities, parties, whatever, making the video. Jane has helped, co-hosting and,
Mhm.
contribute a lot with solar cooking and herbs. Carson, contributes the dark and dirty humor. um, yeah, Carson is usually the guy with the double entendres.
That is the cutest thing. Sorry. I am he said Ellen just texted a pic of something. I guess I'm emailing it to you now.
Okay.
I think that was the
Um,
idea. This
Sky
person's in
has
the
a
woods by himself.
Yeah, Sky and Melissa both have Instagram or YouTube channels.
Mhm.
Um, Melissa's is Love Pug Circus. Some great pics on Instagram. Sky's is Dogs Discussions. And they'll be walking down the street, see some cute animals, and just start interviewing, asking about them, whatever. It's if you need some grins, both of those are good channels.
So is Oprah named
Well,
after Harpo Marx? It's a good question. Don't know. Triple
sometimes,
entendres. Look at you.
yes. Vids sent. So let me see what I got here.
Excellent. You should have a picture of a very cute little thing that Carson sent me. The cutest thing I've ever seen.
All right. Well, here is BJ video number one.
This is a family friendly channel. Don't worry. Sort of, except for my mouth. We can't see it, Clay, or hear it.
You can't see it.
He forgot
Oh,
to put it and share it with the rest of us. Did you share the volume? We can't hear it. I love it when he's looking at something and I can kind of see it down below where it's not being
All right, let's
shared. Sorry, guys.
try this one more time. There's Green Bean.
It's the conga line.
And he's just happily following along.
Mhm. Baby.
And then Green Bean number 3. Those ears.
That's too cute.
Those ears. All right, let's see. Do I have another one? Which one did you mail it to, Ellen?
Work.
Okay.
You know, that's the one I always send to. I'm going to remove that. Oh, we'll get to the third one. Hang on. Let's get to Carson and his little friend. This is one of two things. I'm not sure if it. Are you? Can you blow it up?
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at it.
We'll blow it up. Big, big, big. Big, big, big. Is that a hedgehog or a porcupine? Looks like a hedgehog now.
I would go with hedgehog.
Excuse me.
It's not a porcupine.
Excuse me.
Or is it a baby porcupine with the needles just start? I don't know.
Is it? I don't know.
Carson, well, now I want to know your guesses.
I'm thinking hedgehog.
I'm going with
baby porcupine. Oh, it's a porcupine. Okay.
I'm going with baby porcupine. Yeah, because
I just didn't see any quills.
Yeah, you can see them starting to come out here. These white,
and
I'm pretty damn sure they're not born with all those things.
That would not that you've ever given birth, but that would not be fun.
Now, listen, I will have you know, I have given birth.
To what?
I've had
stones?
5 kidney stones. The last one was like this big, and it had like thorns and everything coming out. It
was that big.
Yes, thing was huge. And that's why most women who have had both kidney stones and babies say that they would much, much rather have the baby.
Whatever you say.
Part of it may be after the pain fades, they've got the joy of the baby. So it's like, yeah, I'd rather have the baby. Yeah, it's a young one. Also, hedgies aren't native to North America.
Well, where are they native to? I'm curious.
The guy probably weighs 3 to 4 pounds. It's bigger than I would have thought, but
he's like half a Tallulah. He's a
how old can they be? Does the mom take, how long does the mom take care of them?
They're in the UK. You're saying kidney stones aren't fun to cuddle?
I've got a couple souvenirs, but I have rarely cuddled them. It's just
he saved them to show them off.
Damn right I did. I
Which is
earned
all
that.
kinds of fun.
I earned that.
Carson's like, I don't know. Yeah, what Melissa said. You know what though? Monkeys aren't native to Native America or North America
South
either.
Carolina.
Apparently, they are now to South Carolina because there are 38 of them going north. By the way, watch out. A tribe of monkeys that a lab set loose by
Didn't
accident.
set loose. They escaped. Yeah.
By accident. So can you imagine the 38 monkeys? It's 38 or 43. Can't remember which.
Planet of the Apes. It's
Has now
beginning.
come to North America. So, Carson, when you see a monkey running around your backyard and you say, they don't do North America. Well, apparently they do now.
Yeah, I don't
They
think they're going
definitely
to
do now.
go. I don't think they'll go that far north. I think they got more sense than to go that far north.
Apparently they were headed north. Just wanted you to know.
They will until winter comes, then they'll figure it out.
Well, where are they going to go?
South, warmer climates.
Do you know
Bama,
what kind of
Louisiana.
kind of?
Hell,
you know
we'll
what-
export them to Mexico.
Can I speak?
No.
Apparently, obviously. Do you know what kind of experiments they've done on those monkeys while they were in a lab?
Teaching them to talk
Oh, that's it.
and shoot guns.
Because that's what we do. We teach them to talk.
I've seen the training videos.
From this lab.
Planet of the Apes. It was a lab. They got them all
Not
over.
the same. Okay, the joy and pain and the broken hearts of raising
Raising
Tell
kids.
me all about it.
Yes. I think we can all
Carson.
relate to that.
Grab shotgun. Where are these monkeys? Thanks. Wonder how tasty they are.
Monkey meat actually is not bad.
Have you
Tastes
had
like
it?
chicken. Yeah.
Where? When?
Long ago.
He's lying. Okay. These are monkeys that live where it freezes. I mean, it does, but they've been in a lab condition and they have been experimented on, and we don't know how, why, what.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all saw this, but it actually snowed in Saudi Arabia this year. This past week.
All that darn global
Desert.
warming.
Yeah, desert and everything. And Saudis are well equipped for warm weather. But they've had a week of just terribly cold weather, and it even snowed in the desert. Funniest thing you ever see, camels with snow on their backs. Let's see.
You got to criticize me. Why are you suddenly on Team Clay? You know? No, but if you see any monkeys running around, they came from South Carolina.
Yeah, I doubt they'd travel 1,000 miles in a week, but
they have been running rampant. I don't know if you've seen the videos. They are moving quick.
Yeah, in what province do you live, Carson?
He lives the same one as
Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't think of the name of it. It's not Manitoba.
Which is Edmonton, which is in Alberta.
Edmonton. Yeah, that's right. Beautiful country up in there. I mean, I love Montana. But, the 9 months of winter, I just couldn't do. So I love the area up there. Beautiful country, is great to get outside in, but thought Ian lived in Saskatchewan.
Well, where's Edmonton? That's where he
Alberta.
lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that's where he practiced, but I won't swear to it.
No, he's in Edmonton.
Hope he's doing well. Haven't talked or chatted with him in a while. Has he?
Mm-hmm. I think he's starting to get past it. He did a show still on election night, even though he was like, I want everybody to stay out of the chat who has anything to do with politics. And he was like, okay, fine. I don't care.
I was going to say, how do you host a show on election night that the whole world's watching?
allowing
without
politics.
without some politics. It's just yeah. It's
Like
like
I
having
said,
a show
Canada.
on finance and asking people not to talk about monkeys. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kinda like, you know, Canada being the apartment above the meth lab. Like, you gotta find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, Edmonton is in Alberta. Edmonton is the
Yes.
capital city of Alberta. There you go. Yes, he is in Edmonton. So,
Yeah. Carson might have already headed out to the trails.
I
So,
think he did.
yeah, that was his way of telling a spy.
Yes, it was.
But it was good to see him again.
Yeah.
Carson
Carson, we miss you.
a frequent visitor.
And to all of you who are on, Replay Crew, we love you too. We don't forget about you.
Yep.
Speaking
We
of a air
we will
sick,
hear from some of the faithful.
I hope she had a safe flight from Japan to Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah, I think I just learned the other night that she's a stewardess.
We've known that
It did not stick with me.
for AA,
Air sick, I wouldn't
American
think yeah,
Airlines.
I wouldn't think air sick, but if you do it all the time, yeah, it kinda makes it's cute, kinda makes sense. So,
Yes, she's a
and
flight attendant.
yeah, we've got some on Replay Crew that, former friends in Scotland, Russia, around, so all you guys, we appreciate you very much. Hope sometime you get a chance, you can join us live and say hey properly.
And we will always respond to your comments, as you know.
Yes.
If Clay doesn't know the answer, I'll chime in. That happens sometimes.
Now, like I say, I had a couple things. And one thing that I saw this past week that I thought was modestly interesting was this research paper, the staff reports produced by, let me get rid of this, the Federal Reserve, the
Wait,
New York branch.
before you do
Go ahead.
this, um, the head of the Federal Reserve was asked that if Trump wanted to get rid of him, would he step down? He said no, and I won't do it, and he can't get rid of me by law.
Yeah, he didn't say that. I saw the actual interview. He was just asked, would you resign? No. If Trump asked you to, would you resign? No. He's got 15 months left in his term.
Now, there was another question that if he wants to get rid of you, can he fire you? He said it's not within the law.
Yeah. But yeah, the thing is, as far as Fed governors, Fed chairmen go, one, I find it interesting that a lot of pro-Trumpers want him gone because he's probably the only Republican on the board. And two, he has been steadfast in trying to reverse some of the Fed's prior policies that kind of got us in this mess, like QE. He has refused to engage in QE. He started shrinking the Fed's balance sheet, even though liquidity is shrinking up. Now, he has cut rates, which is one thing Trump wants. He wants lower rates.
Mhm.
And I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think it's too premature. I think inflation is starting to tick up again.
Mhm.
And, we've talked about that in several shows previously, how some of the underlying indices are, I'm trying to look some up. Now, some of the underlying
Okay.
indices like core PPI, core CPI, trim mean CPI, all of which we've talked about before, are showing inflation starting to increase. And I was trying to look up, there's this private measure that a former, Fed Reserve executive has put together called Trueflation. It's only available by subscription. So can't look it up real quick for you, but it shows inflation dipping, and then the last 4 months inflation is literally turning exponential again. So it's gone from 1.2 up to 3% the last 3 months. So that's a big concern. And if the Fed is cutting rates, it's doing it, one, I think, because they believe the economy is in trouble. And they are trying to, quote unquote, soften the landing, which, I've kind of warned about, to some extent. So as far as Powell goes, I think he's done a pretty decent job overall. But, among Trump supporters, there's a huge move to get rid of him. And I'm not exactly sure why. He has not done a horrible job, particularly compared to previous Feds. All right, I see Ellen has gifted 5 memberships. Anybody we know? Did you get another one?
No, thank God. But Carson, what a shock! I didn't get a membership. Boo, I try every time. I just don't know what's wrong with you people in Canada. And Deanna, you are very welcome. Not a problem. Glad.
Hello, Deanna.
Welcome to the family.
Thank you. And Carson, it's kind of funny with Carson. For those of you that have been following the show for a while, we can gift, 5 memberships a month, something like that.
We did 5 earlier. Yeah.
And we try to do it when Carson is on, and it's kind of become a joke. I can't call it a game, a joke, a running joke, because Carson never gets one.
And Ellen, I always do.
Ellen is a co-host, and she's gotten several.
And I'm like, I don't need one.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. So we have no control over who those go to. You just say, give 5 memberships, and YouTube,
random.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting, but, we'll keep trying, Carson.
I think it's a Canadian thing, but, he's got, I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, yes, Edmonton. Yeah. It's a nice area to meet people. Yes, Ian's here in Alberta.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I stopped.
Ian also got to go hunting this weekend.
Oh, sorry.
I did see a pic he posted. He had a broken mount on his scope. And I'm not sure the caliber of the gun. Kind of looked like, I don't know, I would guess a 270, maybe, just from the short view I had. Nice scope, Nikon glass, but for some reason that mount had cracked. And he was sitting there like, I didn't hit it, didn't drop it, didn't bang it, whatever. So that's kind of weird. And a mount is the thing that wraps around the scope and affixes it to the rifle, keeps it in place.
Mm-hmm.
And you zero the scope, which aligns it with the barrel to where, 100 yards out, 200 yards out, 300 yards out, whatever your zero is, the crosshairs in the scope are where the bullet lands. So you get it zero. Well, if that mount breaks, cracks, whatever, that scope can move just a hair. And at 200, 300 yards, I'm not sure how far he's shooting, but at some distance, you have just a slight difference in your crosshair and where the bullet actually travels. It adds up over distance, and you can end up missing by several feet. So that's not an insignificant issue. Not sure how his zero held up. Didn't check back with him. Didn't see anything. Didn't actually follow it. But when you don't have much opportunity to get out, and you're out and something goes wrong with your equipment, it's maddening. So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I can name that tune in one note. Um, Federal Reserve staff report. I have talked repeatedly about the trouble in commercial real estate, particularly office buildings, retail centers, and even with banks holding mortgages. Like if a bank takes deposits, it can do two things with that money. It can either lend it out or it can buy like treasury bonds, agency bonds, or mortgage-backed securities. Banks sell mortgages, they put them in trust, they sell pro rata shares of the trust. That's a mortgage-backed security. So you're buying a pro rata interest of 1,000, 10,000 mortgages, however many are in that trust. So banks don't actually keep your home loan, they sell it. And so they can relend the money. Well, so banks that hold these mortgages, particularly commercial real estate mortgages or that hold commercial real estate loans, are mostly regional and super regional banks. They're the ones that make most of the commercial loans. The big banks don't fiddle with the smaller loans. And a smaller, I'm saying 5, 10, $50 million. That would be most of your local and regional banks. Well, with the drop in with the increase in vacancies, like office buildings are 30% full now. Companies that held leases have let the leases expired, haven't renewed them, have negotiated a lower lease rate, whatever, because people are working from home. A lot of companies went out of business during the lockdown. And so in commercial real estate, these regional banks have huge losses. The value of those mortgages, the value of those mortgage-backed securities, the value of their loan portfolio has dropped significantly. Banks have about 3-4 trillion in assets. And some people have estimated the drop in commercial real estate's around 1 trillion, 1.2 trillion. So this paper looks at that sector of the market, and it points out that banks have done this what's called extend and pretend trick to keep from having to default on the loans. Banks don't handle losses in their loan portfolio well at all. They're not built to take losses. They can take very small losses, but if the losses end up increasing or getting bigger, it'll put the bank out of business. So this paper points out that banks have done what they call extend and pretend. There's an old adage in banking, a rolling loan gathers no loss. So when a loan comes mature, even though the company or borrower can't repay the loan, doesn't have any money, has had trouble making payments, the bank, instead of taking that loss and risking going out of business, the bank will just renew that loan and, basically issue a new loan. They extend the loan and they pretend that the borrower is qualified to receive the new loan. It's called extend and pretend. It's fraud. It's banks lying about the nature of their asset portfolio and trying to conceal losses. Extend and pretend. They're impaired. That's a fancy term for underwater mortgages, impair CRE mortgages to avoid writing off capital. This, I've been banging on this for several years and saying this is a big problem, that's under the surface.
Is this not illegal? Sure, what?
The Federal Reserve is the regulator. Now there are state regulators, but the Fed is the 800-pound gorilla in the banking regulatory world.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the Fed turns a blind eye, if they kind of wink at it, it's going to be allowed to persist. Not
Is
one
this more
state so far has put the issue.
is this more bigger banks or smaller banks?
This would be your local banks. This would be banks that are in your state or in a region, a couple states. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the really big banks like Citi, BOA, Deutsche, UBS, Bank of Tokyo, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman, not those kind of banks. It's
So this
more
would
your,
this would actually kill the small bank market.
it would crush banking all over because these small banks, if they failed, they have loans with the bigger upstream banks.
Okay.
And so
So it's
they would
keeping the
default.
big banks in business.
It's keeping everybody in business.
So what happens if this is made illegal? Which it should be.
Well, it kind of already is illegal.
It's padding the numbers, basically.
Yes. And I think that's why the Fed, if you look at the current spread between the Fed rate and, short-term T-bills, the Fed is dropping rates extremely rapidly. Its first decrease was a 50 basis points. Next month, it did another 25. This is a very, very rapid decline. So I think the Fed is cutting rates so fast, not because they're convinced inflation is dead, but because they're convinced that the economy is starting to choke down, recession is here, and if they don't get these rates lower and let people put the banks in a better position to issue new loans at lower rates, there's going to be some of these bankruptcies and defaults, and it's just going to escalate. Now, the
How do you
problem is one quick thing. Hold
Yeah.
that thought. Problem is that the Fed is cutting rates, and yes, the 3-month and 6-month rates are dropping, but the rates 1 year and longer on the Treasury curve are increasing, and that's what banks. The 10-year is basically what banks base their mortgage rates off of. And the 10-year Treasury is up almost 90 basis points over where it was when the Fed first cut rates 2 months ago. So it's almost a full percentage point higher. Mortgages have gone from 6.3 to 7.3. So
Okay.
interest rates are actually increasing. Question.
I heard like none of that because I'm still trying to remember what my question was.
It's okay.
What happens if, let's say, all this is put to an end? You can't do that anymore, like today.
We have probably catastrophic bank failure.
When you say catastrophic,
Think
to
2008.
whom? But to whom? And does
Regional
it
banks and
does it
bigger banks.
reset the system?
It will cause 2008, all the banks were within days or a week of failing once
I
Lehman
recall.
Brothers
I recall.
fell. And then the Fed and the Treasury stepped in and say, hey, we'll guarantee all of these money market accounts, we'll guarantee all these short-term paper. And crisis was averted. So that's what
But
we'd be facing again.
the taxpayers keep bailing out the banks, though. And
Yep.
we bailed out Citibank, what, 3 times?
Yep. And each time comes back bigger and worse.
So what is the solution? And you can't say to keep going like we're going because that can't be a solution. That's just a means to more crap.
Well, see, Powell has tried to get rates back to their historical norm,
Mhm.
increase rates, and he's quit the free money supply to the big banks. That created the bubble in the stock market. It created the bubble in the housing market. And he's like, we should have never done this. So he's trying to get things back to where they kind of should be. Like, people now choke on a 6.5, 7% mortgage rate. Well, that's the historical average. When I got my first house, it was at 12%. 6, 7, 8% is the normal range for 30-year mortgages with,
Must have been in the
decent
80s.
credit. 70s, 80s, yeah,
Yeah.
early 80s. That's the normal range for, somebody with good credit for a 30-year mortgage. Well, if these regional banks fail, they owe money to the bigger banks, their correspondent bank. And so they'll default on those loans. So the bigger bank will also start taking losses and have to write off capital.
Let me is this kind of like, let's say you're a PA, physician assistant, and you have a doctor that oversees you. So if you fuck up, it ends up coming back on him and his insurance whatever. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Small bank, big bank, little doctor, big
Yeah.
doctor.
It's just like if I've got a loan from you and I
Mhm.
don't repay it, I default on it. Well, you have loans to other people. And if you don't get the money from me, it makes
I
it a
can't
lot
pay them.
harder from you to pay them.
Right.
And so if enough of the people like me default on loans to you, you won't be able to repay them. Well, they're demanding payment, so you have to file bankruptcy. So it's kind of a catch 22. What we have done since 2010 has got us in this horrible position, and it is banking wise a horrible position. And so, kind of like the alternative that everybody is kind of turning a blind eye to is this extend and pretend. Because
I
banks
don't like
can't
it.
start writing off their losses. It'll exhaust their capital, put them out of business.
I don't like it. I think
I
that
don't
even though it should be or it will be extremely painful in a short term to get rid of some of these big guys and even some of the little guys that have to come with it. And this is just a sort of thought process I'm going through. Would it be worth it?
Well, the thing is, you may not be able to limit it to a few big guys, and it may end up being could without the government intervening again like it did in 2008,
Mhm.
be where within a week or two, we're all trading bearskin rugs under a tree. You literally
That be
your bank has no liquidity. So you go to the grocery store to buy groceries, you hand them your credit card. They say, "I'm sorry, your credit card doesn't work. Do you have another card?" You go, "Well, wait a minute. I've got $10,000 in that account." You try another credit card. That doesn't work. So you're like all mad. You go to the ATM, try to pull
Mhm.
out cash, says no cash available. And now you're really mad. So you go down the block to the local branch. You're going to just raise hell with everybody because you got $10,000 in the bank and the doors are locked. And the people inside are looking at you, just throwing their hands up, going, "There's nothing we can do."
Okay.
That's what we came awful close to in 2008,
I'm
literally
aware.
within a few days or a week.
I recall.
That is the worst case scenario for what we've got going now. Because if banks have 4 trillion in assets and 1 trillion of them is impaired, that will absolutely dissolve all the capital.
But there's because right now it's so inflated and it's so, to me, cartoonish because it doesn't seem real keeping them going. How long can they make this last?
Well, that's what Powell is desperately and intensely working on. He's trying to lower the rates. So the lower the rate, it's easier for these zombie companies, these zombie borrowers to refinance, to get them qualified. It lowers their payments. The idea is if rates drop, it would lower their payments and reduce the losses in those mortgages in the commercial real estate portfolios. Well, the rest of the market is not going along. It's not dropping their mortgage rates. The mortgage rates have increased because they see the risk increasing. Knowledgeable investors. I've always said that the fixed income market is a more sophisticated and quantitative market than the stock market, than investors in the stock market. And a lot of those investors are familiar with what's going on. They have some idea of the CRE liabilities that have accrued. Well, they're not playing along. They're like, if we're facing a bigger risk of bankruptcy or default, we need a higher return. The risk is increasing, the return has to increase. Risk and return are always commensurate.
But doesn't the risk increase when the interest rates increase?
It's a catch-22. And so, do you say, as an investor, risk is increasing, but I'll accept a lower return just for the good of the country? A lot of the investors are international.
Or just with a better chance of being paid back?
Well, there's a lot of other factors at work. The U.S. Treasury is base curve, which when I talk about the Treasury curve, it's all the issuance of U.S. Treasury bonds, short-term, intermediate term, long-term. So you've got investors, international investors like China, Japan, Europe, who buy Treasury bonds. Well, a lot of those countries are trying to move away from the dollar. So they've been set, like China recently has probably, I can't prove it, but I suspect China has recently been dumping Treasury bonds because their yuan, the value of the yuan to the dollar has been falling. Same with the yen.
A couple years ago, Japan owned more Treasury bonds than China, which was a new flip.
And they're selling them. So remember the teeter-totter? As more and more Treasury bonds are sold, supply increases when demand hasn't changed. When supply increases and demand doesn't change, price drops. The teeter-totter, as price of a bond drops, the interest rate rises. So I think a lot of what we're seeing is not only investors saying there's more risk, you're seeing certain large investors dump treasuries and be less active at treasury auctions, which makes the rate go higher. Europe's selling treasuries. All the BRICS nations are trying to get away from the dollar. So, the BRICS is a trade consortium consisting of Brazil, India, China, Russia, South Africa, were the original, and 43 other nations have applied for membership. So these are all nations who, since the U.S. started weaponizing the dollar, the Biden started using, and we did against Russia. We've never done that before.
And against everybody who buys our bonds now.
Well, it's because we weaponize the dollar. A lot of countries are like, well, if the U.S. doesn't like our policies, then they can use the dollar to punish us. So they're trying to get off the dollar and away from the dollar. Well, that causes the value of the dollar to drop, which creates more inflation. And these countries do less and less trade in the dollar. So they have fewer dollars to buy treasuries with. So it's kind of a complex world. There's a lot of things going on, and none of it is moving in the direction to help the banks. with the impaired, quote unquote, CRE portfolios?
In my opinion, it's kind of like a tightrope wire where you've got bricks on top and bricks on the bottom, making it so uneven, but it's a very fine balance act to make it all work. Now, with that, hang on. We've got some, yeah. All
Oh,
right,
this is going back to Ian.
I've
Yeah, I
got
think
to
he shoots.
tinkle while you do this. So I'll be right back.
Okay. I think he shoots a 270. Looks like a Tikka. Nice rifle. Trying to remember the brand of rings, but it's a popular brand that's a one-piece mount and ring. I've not heard of problems with them before. Not sure. Looked like they were aluminum rings, but I couldn't really tell who the manufacturer was. And Carson is settled in for what sounds like a pretty nice dinner. Smoked wings and eggs. I'm one of those people that actually prefers breakfast food at night. It just seems to taste better. I don't know if my taste buds are more awake, alert, or whatever, but I like eggs at night too. The story of the communication issue behind the crash is fascinating. Let's see. Trying to remember what you're referencing. I don't know if we've talked about it before or not, but if you could enlighten us on that. You assume there would be people in the banks. Yeah, a lot of them would be gone, probably including the security guards. And Carson, I'm trying to get more into Bitcoin, which is interesting because that was kind of a second thing I was going to bring up tonight. Let me ask y'all while we're here before I start talking about Bitcoin, does anybody have any questions about this extend and pretend or banking? Is something I said, unclear, confusing, or whatever? Please let me know. Don't hesitate to ask questions. But I was a little shocked that the Fed actually published an article saying, hey, the numbers are all hokey, but here you go.
Carson, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with you.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it. I think it was the Lehman Brothers conversation. We talked about the communication.
I'm trying to remember, and it's not coming back. For those of you that don't remember, or maybe younger, don't remember 2008, Lehman Brothers was an old prestigious investment bank, one of the top investment banks in the world, and actually had a few students that were working there. Well, the subprime crisis had caused several banks to fail. Countrywide, Wachovia, Bear Stearns, just a number of them over the previous few months. But Lehman was kind of seen as one of the stalwarts. And then, news comes out that, they actually need to be bailed out. And the Fed had bailed out or helped with a couple of other firms and decided not to with Lehman. It was like, these people need to take their medicine. And so Lehman declared bankruptcy. Well, Lehman had a bunch of commercial paper loans outstanding where they borrowed capital on a short-term basis. And mutual funds bought a lot of their paper. And one of the oldest and most prestigious mutual funds, a money market fund called Prime Reserve, had a bunch of Lehman paper. And so all of a sudden, this paper was worth zero. Now, money market funds try to keep their price at $1 per share. You buy it at $1, you sell it at $1. Well, since Primerica lost so much of the value of their fund, they had to break the buck. So their share price dropped to 97 cents. Well, people who have money in money market mutual funds are looking for a conservative investment. And so they see where this money market, this big prestigious money market, has dropped in value. So people are calling up saying, liquidate it, send me my money. Well, Primerica starts getting more requests for liquidation than they have cash available. So they have to start dumping assets. They have to start selling some of their short-term bonds. Well, the market for bonds was already depressed. It had already been hammered. And
hang on. Carson says that's not quite how it went. Hang on.
Okay, well, let me finish this first.
Okay.
Since I'm on a topic here, let me finish
You're on a roll.
Yeah. So people start calling in more liquidation requests. Primerica, Prime Reserve, has to start selling more bonds, dumping bonds into an already declining market. Well, again, increasing supply causes the prices to fall. So, Primerica thinks it's selling, $95 worth of bonds, and they only end up selling for $90. So they're $5 short. So they have to sell more. They think they'll get $90 out of this second sale. Well, they only get 80. Supply is increasing. The price is falling. Other people in other mutual funds start seeing the Primerica shares drop. And so they're worried. They call their money market fund and start demanding liquidations. So other money market funds start dumping bonds into the market. The price starts falling even more. They get less and less for the bonds. They're not able to raise the capital they thought they could raise, so they have to start selling more. More they sell, the less they get. The less they get, the more they sell. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That is the worst case scenario for the economy. It's called contagion. And the market is simply not designed to handle a systematic liquidity crisis. There's just not enough buyers. And if there's not enough buyers, the price crashes. And so the prices were going lower and lower. The demands for sales were going higher and higher, more and more supply. And that's what I mean when I say we were very close to trading bearskin rugs under a tree and all of the banks shutting down because their capital would be destroyed. So they literally would have no money. They would have paper assets, but they'd have no cash. That's what the Lehman Brothers collapse precipitated, was contagion. That's why it's such a historic event. And 2 days after the bankruptcy, with the markets absolutely collapsing, that's when the Fed and the Treasury stepped in and said, hey, we will guarantee all this short-term paper. We will make every money market fund whole. And that's what stemmed the crisis. Investors said, okay, the U.S. government's going to make me whole. I'm good. All right, now.
Carson's got some comments, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Let's see. They sent a guy over to the Fed to ask for help, but sent him with a big memo and buried the TLDR in the middle of the memo. The guy they sent didn't communicate the urgency of why she was there, so he didn't get seen until the end of the day. And by then, the time he was seen, the guy at the Fed realized what the issue was. It was too late to do anything about it before the end of the day. Lehman Brothers had a bunch of stuff being called and started the business day the next day, so you can guess how all that went. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly about the memo, contents of the memo. I'll have to go back and look that up. But Lehman wanted to get bailed out, didn't get bailed out, had to file for bankruptcy. That started the contagion. And that's the issue with major bank failures is the system is just not built to withstand that. You've heard the old saying, too big to fail. Well, that's what it means, is literally we cannot afford to let some of these fail. Now, Obama, when he was running, said that he will get rid of the too big to fail. He'll break them up. Never happened. Trump didn't break them up. Biden hasn't broken them up. They've all gotten even bigger. And the Fed now is taking some of these small troubled regionals like SVB and First Republic and just literally gave them to Morgan at a huge discount. There wasn't even an auction. That was wrong. There should have been an auction for the assets, but the Fed was trying to keep everything cool and quick and not have a ton of publicity or focus on this area. I can't say that I blame them, but it should have been an auction and things should have been more transparent and disclosed. So, here we are. Morgan got even bigger. In fact, Morgan was able to buy it, and this is Cliff Notesy. Morgan was able to buy it at such a price that they looked at the assets on the books that they acquired, and they were able to book like an $18 million profit. Or 18. I might be missing 3 zeros. I have to go back and check. But yeah, it worked out greatly for Morgan. Helped all their CEOs get an even bigger bonus. So, when some of these deals like this are being made, that things are really screwed. There is almost a sense of urgency underlying all the decisions and the actions. They don't seem initially rational, like the Fed cutting rates so fast. That's not normal compared to historic trends and averages. That's not normal. So why is the Fed in such a hurry to get the rates down? Why was the Fed in such a hurry to place SVB with a more stable bank without conducting the normal auction or querying other banks? There's stuff going on underneath the surface. Extend and pretend. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions? Carson. Making them too bigger to fail. Yes, they've all got the too big to fail have gotten even bigger, which makes them less able to fail. It's kind of bizarro world unless you understand what's beneath the surface. You've got a little bit of, is it 15% of an iceberg above the surface? I don't remember the exact percentage, but the same idea. You see a little bit on the surface of the really big mass is underneath the water. Same thing here. All right. Carson made a mention that he was thinking about buying Bitcoin. And, I talked about this some today, Tesla and Bitcoin. Now, I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to Tesla. But Tesla, the past few weeks, has doubled in price. Here you can see, somewhere around October 25th, it was around maybe 213, if I remember correctly. And then you can tell over the past, week, shot up to 350. It was down a little bit today. But that's a pretty huge rise. That's a pretty rapid rise for Tesla, which Tesla does one thing. It makes EVs. And, I was asking people today, if you could buy an EV or an ICE vehicle, if you had the money, which one would you buy? ICE being internal and most of them chose an ICE vehicle. I mean, EVs are cool, but if you travel a lot, they're not as practical. People have seen a lot of the videos, like in Qualified Captain, where you have a like a Tesla, somebody trying to use a Tesla to back a boat down a boat ramp, launch a boat, but it ends up the boat and the trailer way too much, and it just drags the Tesla into the water with it. Well, lithium doesn't do well with water, and so you've got this car underwater on fire, and the water's not extinguishing it. I mean, Chevrolet had its Bolt, its EV, and it was setting more garages on fire than, you know, than the cars were getting miles. So you don't see any Bolts on the road. Ford shut down its EV truck plant. Volkswagen, Mercedes have all, canceled their plants, set them back. A lot of car companies were switching entirely over to EVs by 2035. Now they've almost all canceled those plans because the market doesn't want EVs. They're expensive. The grid can't handle EVs. California's even setting, rationing electricity for electric car owners. And if you leave your car plugged in, the state may use the energy from its battery at times to cover shortfalls. So you think your car is fully charged, you go out and it's got a 50 or 25% charge left. So, the EVs have kind of fallen out of favor. Not only that, you've got an administration coming in which is not terribly pro EV. So a lot of the grants, the awards, the tax incentives, whatever, are going away. The interesting thing is that Musk has said all the subsidies need to end. I mean, I don't know, the past 2 weeks, he's what, $70 billion richer? And he's sitting there saying, we don't need the subsidies. We just need the opportunity to compete fairly with everybody else. I respect the hell out of that. But the point is, Tesla has had a hell of a run the last 2 weeks. Why? Is some kind of news change to make EVs look sexier? No. Is Tesla opening up new markets? No. They're even going to have more trouble in some of the foreign markets with the fall of the dollar. And, if Trump puts on tariffs, that's going to hurt their international sales. So why are people buying Tesla? I don't know. I don't have a good answer or a good reason. I look at, the trends, I look at the information I know, and I'm thinking that kind of increase in that short of a time, probably not a good thing. Now, I would not buy Tesla now. I would not short Tesla either. I mean, we know the market can be stupider longer than you can be solvent.
True.
Based on what I know now, this is not the most intelligent decision. Ellen, did you have something?
No.
Oh, were you just hiccuping?
No, I just said true.
Yeah. Early 2000 Buick, Pontiac, or Chevrolet with a 3800 series engine. I'm still partial to like the old Oldsmobile 454 V8 4-barrel carb. That was a hustle. Or my favorite of all time, 1971
Dodge.
Plymouth.
Sorry.
Challenger. Yeah. No. Barracuda. A 71 CUDA with a 426 Hemi. That's the chariot of the gods.
Breaking.
Trump selects Elon Musk and Vivek to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm surprised they're going to co-team.
Why?
I would have thought Musk would have done that on his own and Vivek would have gotten another cabinet level appointment.
I think it's
But
perfect because Vivek wants to get rid of all of the wasteful three-letter agencies.
yeah, well, so does Elon.
Yeah, so
They're
they're perfect.
united on that, but it is a big job, and so maybe they can divide up the responsibilities because it is a big job. The fascinating thing to me is RFK has also said he wants to fire immediately 600 FDA employees,
God bless
which
him.
RFK, I mean, RFK traditionally has been what I would call on the more liberal side, kind of a big government advocate in a lot of things. And, but, he's like, we need to cut government. Boom. So it's going to be an interesting time. Um,
Um,
Carson, those old Buicks are just out of my price range. Yeah,
hang on.
I looked at a 71 Hemi Cuda ragtop. I want a convertible. Last one I saw was like 1.4 million. There were only 11 made actually. Now some people have taken the 70 Cuda, replaced the front grille, dropped in a newer 426, but and I'd still probably take one of those, but they're still 200-300 grand. Still the chariots of the gods.
All right, I will send this to you.
Melissa, I'll take that car. You and me both. Some of those old classic cars, I just love. I really do. I'm still mad. 65 Vet Stingray, $3,000, styling that slays. I can't believe my father didn't go ahead and buy me one. I was only a tyke at the time, but geez, Dad.
Didn't you get rid of a car that was like worth a ton
Yeah,
of money now?
I had a I had a 71 Challenger with a
Challenger.
383. That was a damn nice car. I remember when I got it. Um, I guess I got it in 76,
Mhm.
77, and it really never been waxed, so the paint was a little rough on it, kind of grainy. The color wasn't distorted, it was just had texture. And I literally over the next week, I washed it, then I waxed that thing like 10 or 11 times. And it had a finish on it smooth as a baby's butt. I was so proud of that car, my first car. I wish I had kept it. But, it got older, the miles, the repairs, I needed a, more reliable car, didn't want to keep repairing that thing, but I could work on it. You opened up the hood, I could sit inside the hood and work on the engine. It was great. You could access everything. And it was just straightforward. You didn't have all the electronic, all the computerized crap, all the pollution control stuff. All that stuff left me behind. But, I loved working on those engines.
I just emailed you the link to the announcement.
I'm going to assume that's work as well.
Yep.
Here is the
Can you blow that
actual
up?
announcement. Yeah, working on it. Slow, chill your horses. Whoops. Going to have to do this. Open image, new tab. Let's try this. That works a little better. Statement from Trump. I'm pleased to announce the great Elon Musk, working in conjunction with American patriot Vivek Ramaswamy, will lead the Department of Government Efficiency. They really named it that. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Dismantle bureaucracy, slash regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, restructure federal agencies. It will become potentially the Manhattan Project of our time.
Now I have heard a lot of things about if you're going to restructure the government and you're going to get rid of departments and it will take Congress to bring back it will take laws to bring back anything that they get rid of right now?
Well, I think I don't know. It's kind of nuanced area of the
Mhm,
law. My original impression was that it would take congressional approval to cut departments,
mhm,
and it may, but Trump can probably, with executive power and executive orders, release a lot of the people, take the funding, turn it automatic to the states like in block grants,
mhm.
and then, whatever employees are left, just rent a big warehouse and give them a chair in that warehouse and then go sit in that warehouse for, a few years, 8 hours a day. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. There's some controversy on what can be done, what can't. The courts will probably end up settling it, but I do think the government could be a lot more efficient. And
And
so I'm
smaller.
kind of yeah, I'm a small government person anyway. I want the government off my ass and out of my wallet. So,
They would work together
but
to
it'll be
liberate our economy,
yeah,
make the US government
it doesn't matter which side you're on. It's gonna be a fascinating process to watch. So, I know, some people are for it, some people are against it, but I think we can all agree it's gonna be a fascinating process to watch. This will be the most revolutionary administration we've had in, I don't know since when, FDR?
well, it's like we need a reset,
Yeah, I think it's time. We'll see how well it goes.
and it's supposed to the work will conclude no later than July 4th, 2026.
Yep,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, that's pretty clear. Cool. We shall see. Now, Melissa, oh, Vet is my favorite car. I love those 60s Vets. Not as much of a fan of the 70s, but the 60s I love. The new ones, not a fan. Give me an Aston Martin anytime. But
Heck yeah.
um Carson, 69 Impala with a 327 on Marketplace.
Okay.
Haven't seen
And
that.
another Donald Trump names John Ratcliffe as director of the CIA.
CIA or DIA?
Yeah,
CIA?
CIA. I will send you the link.
Okay. Interesting. There's some very strong personalities that aren't your usual Washington insiders. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're going to find out over the next couple of years, but it will be entertaining as hell. I can pretty much guarantee that,
Well,
or that's certainly what I expect.
I was watching PBD today with Charlie Kirk, and they're saying that actually getting people from Congress, including House and Senate, could sway both to be more Democratic led. So they're like, you got to be careful who you take from there because you don't want to lose the houses.
Yeah. You need to pick people that you think can be, replaced with solid people.
Because the House has to be replaced through an election,
Election, yeah.
but the
And
Senate is replaced by an appointee from the governor of the state.
like Rubio, I saw where today, one possible and apparently strong candidate to replace Rubio from Florida in the Senate is
Mhm.
Lara Trump, which, I mean, she did a really good job as co-chair of the RNC, but girl is moving on up. She's from here in town, and she's come out of nowhere and stands a really good chance to be the next senator from Florida. So that'll be interesting. All right, we were talking about.
Hang on. You've got a couple of emails I just sent
Okay.
about a new announcements.
I got to save it first. Let me see here. First, I got to find the damn drive.
Carson, my theory is that Trump's first term was really figuring out who all the misfits were, not he's assembling this team. Well, the problem was he didn't think he was going to win, to be honest. And he also
I don't know.
had
I
no
think he did.
idea. That's not what he has said. But he's also, he didn't know who to trust and who not to trust. And I think he
Oh,
has
the
figured
first
that
time.
out at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Laura Trump is so amazing. Yes, she is. I lived in her parents' neighborhood when I was in Wilmington proper.
Yeah, she's good people.
Mhm.
And she's sharp. I mean, she did,
Very.
she stepped right into the RNC co-chair, took over the election basically, and election security. And that, everybody's saying it's not just my opinion. Everybody who worked with her is just very, very complimentary.
Between
Here's the
her and
appointment.
Charlie Kirk, I think they probably flipped the election.
Yeah, certainly a huge contribution to it. Here's Ratcliffe's appointment. Ratcliffe is actually the guy. He's most noted for catching the FBI's filing a fraudulent statement in applying for a FISA warrant. Now, a FISA warrant was created under the Patriot Act to grant secret warrants where the evidence is not released. And the FBI filed a false statement in trying to get a warrant to wiretap Trump's New York property. Remember, Trump at first said they're wiretapping my, Trump Tower apartment. People kind of laughed and mocked him. Well, they were doing it.
And the
And Ratcliffe,
200,000 Americans that they surveilled.
yeah, and Ratcliffe is the guy who figured that out. So he's the guy also. He's the only one out of the public intelligence officials that would not sign the affidavit that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation.
Mhm.
Ratcliffe was saying, no, it's actually Hunter's, and we know it is, which he was right on both counts. So he will be an interesting pick as director of the CIA because the CIA has lacked that kind of honesty. I mean, the CIA, you're trained to lie. And you're trained to lie on behalf of the country to benefit the country because some things you just, let's face it, don't need releasing. And you have to be rather convincing when you say, make up another story. But it become so easy to take that skill and abuse it for personal gain, personal enrichment, personal power, whatever. And I think we have seen some evidence of abuses by a lot of the intelligence agencies in terms of how they execute their duties, where the good of the country has become kind of an excuse for improving your personal status, connections, political power, et cetera, et cetera. Power is addictive. I think we all can agree to that. People who get power generally want more power. And they get to the point where they kind of think they're entitled to have the power. There have been some abuses in that regard, and that's what needs resetting.
All right. You've got two more. One, Secretary of Homeland, and the other one is Lord have mercy. Can't remember. Secretary of Defense.
Hold on, this takes me a second.
I know.
Let's see, I've nominated Pete Hegseth to serve as my Secretary of Defense. Interesting. Served as a warrior for troops, tough, smart, true believer. He's at the helm. Graduate of Princeton, graduate degree from Harvard, Army combat veteran, did tours in Guantanamo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He was decorated with 2 Bronze Stars as well as combat badge. He's been a host at Fox News for 8 years, used the platform to fight for our military and veterans. I wrote a book, The War on Warriors, #1 New York Times bestseller. Return our military to meritocracy, lethality, accountability, and excellence. Pete has led 2 veterans accuracy. So I think, if you agree with Trump that the military has become too interested in other issues besides becoming the most lethal, deadly military in the world, that this is a good pick. It's surprising in that nobody was mentioning his name that I'm aware of. So this one comes a little bit of a surprise. Let's see. Oh, and then this is an interesting pick. Governor of North Dakota, Kristi Noem, has been picked for Secretary of Homeland Security. And this is her letter and acceptance statement from the president. This is her Twitter
Under.
handle.
Keep reading. The border czar.
Oh, Tom Homan. Yeah, he was picked 3 or 4 days ago.
Yes.
The guy is a character. He is no
nonsense.
Yeah, he is. I kind of admire that because I suck at mind reading, and he's a guy you never have to worry about reading his mind. He will tell you straight up, and so I kind of respect that. I do respect that. So let's see. Oh, that's what you were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Can you hear the dogs?
Mostly Tallulah. All right. I told Carson made a comment. He was, interested or thinking about buying Bitcoin. And that, spurred me to kind of the second main topic. And so I started off talking about Tesla, how it had jumped in price recently. And I really couldn't figure out rationally why it had. I think we all, can kind of agree it's because of the publicity and role that Musk has. It's kind of rubbing off on Tesla. Well, I don't know how many of you follow Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has exploded as well. It topped $90,000 a coin today. Like I say, I was talking to my class and asked them, Tesla and Bitcoin both jumped. Would you buy Tesla? And we talked about what's moving Tesla or what is not moving. More importantly, what is not moving Tesla? Bitcoin. And so I asked him to start off with how many of you, if you could, would buy Bitcoin. And almost nobody raised their hand except for me and maybe one other student. And, I asked them, why wouldn't you buy it? And they were like, well, it's gone up so much, it'll probably fall. And they all had the idea that it goes up for a temporary time and then falls and stays down, which, if you look at the actual history of Bitcoin, not exactly true, not exactly an accurate picture. So I asked them, and I'll ask you, thinking about Bitcoin, what are the intrinsic values that Bitcoin has? Why would somebody buy Bitcoin? And there wasn't a whole lot of response. People were like, I kind of said I didn't want to buy it, so I don't know why anybody would want to buy it, obviously. And I said, well, I'll give you, my thoughts on it. Number one, I'm a boomer. Okay. We grew up in an area where privacy was treasured. We didn't want anybody knowing our business. Carson says decentralized. Not a bad point, but I really don't think it's the intrinsic value. It kind of contributes in some ways, but we'll get to that. So in my era, privacy was big. I mean, we would get mad, livid. We'd start stacking bodies if the government tried to wiretap our homes, our houses en masse. And I'm like, we didn't want anybody knowing our business. It was our business. Going, y'all, the current students, this generation, y'all don't care. Y'all just put your business all over everything, over Instagram, over Snapchat, over Facebook, whatever. Everybody knows what you're doing and how you're doing it. And wiretaps, hell, the government doesn't have to do that anymore because you go out and buy them and put them in your house for free. How many of you have Alexa, have Siri, buy a TV with a microphone on it and a camera? How many of you buy a computer with a camera and a microphone in it? How many of you carry your phone around? Have you ever just been carrying your phone around? You're not on your phone, but you're just carrying it around and you're talking with somebody about some product. And then when you get back on your phone, you start seeing ads for that product or that item or producers of that item. That pisses me off. So literally everything we have is listening to us. And I'll guarantee you that the NSA can at any time it wants, even if your computer's off, even if your TV's off, they can activate your camera, activate your mic, and listen and record everything you've got going on.
Now,
so go ahead.
Jane, have you learned nothing from the trucker protests in Canada? Very easy to turn off electronic currency, but they can't turn it off. They can't turn off Bitcoin. They can't turn off Ethereum, correct?
Well, let me finish this. I'll take these in series once I get through with the main points.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I like the questions, but I like to stay on one point, complete it, and then we can do the deviations. So this generation buys the wiretaps themselves. Privacy concerns aren't that great, but there's still some out there that are concerned about privacy. Well, if you don't want the government to know everything you buy, sell, if you don't want that, if you have some privacy concerns, then Bitcoin kind of addresses that. Second reason, how many of you love inflation? We've all enjoyed that over the past few years. Well, what causes inflation in the system? Systematic inflation is always, always, always a monetary event. Now, you can have a certain industry or certain company that experiences, some increase in its raw material. And so it has to pass that on. It has inflation. But that's not the whole system. If the whole system is experiencing inflation, that's always a monetary issue. The government printing too much money, the government spending too much money. So the government needs to be able to print more and more money to fund itself. Well, it can't do that with Bitcoin. So if you're concerned about Bitcoin, it addresses that issue. Third reason for me is just control. And, I look at a country like China where they're implementing this social credit score and everybody is paid digitally. Central banks are moving towards using digital currency instead of their paper currency. It's electronic. So China is already there. It pays everybody electronically. And then it has this social credit score where if you jaywalk, they've got cameras everywhere. If you jaywalk, $100 is taken out of your account automatically. If you're going 5 miles over the speed limit, $200 is taken out of your account automatically. And if you get dinged enough, your credit score drops. So you're not able to go to sporting events. You're not able to go to movies. You're not able to eat out. You're not able to buy as much meat, whatever. So you've got this pervasive government control with digital currencies. Bitcoin addresses that. So when I ask what are the intrinsic values of Bitcoin, it's privacy, it's inflation, it's control. Bitcoin addresses all of those. So why would people buy Bitcoin? Well, if you're concerned about privacy, you are a potential Bitcoin buyer. If you're concerned about inflation, you're a potential Bitcoin buyer. If you're concerned about control. Also you've got things like the devaluation of the dollar, companies moving away from the dollar, making the dollar weaker. So if you're concerned, a weaker dollar causes inflation because it makes imports more expensive. It takes more dollars to buy that same unit of foreign currency. So that's inflation by definition. So it all kind of feeds together.
Clay's going to answer these questions, y'all. Hang on.
Yeah. Give me another minute. Just about done on this. So those three things to me are huge intrinsic reasons to buy Bitcoin. A fourth one is that, for example, the Trump administration has said it's going to create a Bitcoin reserve. And if it does, it's going to go out and buy millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Now, I just saw a rumor that the Bitcoin trading desk have less than 100 Bitcoin among them all, inventory, 100 Bitcoin to sell. And new Bitcoin is created at the rate of about 3.25 Bitcoin every 10, 15 minutes. So you're looking at 19, 20 Bitcoin per hour. Well, 100 Bitcoin at $90,000 is $9 million worth of Bitcoin. Well, you've got Vanguard, State Street, Fidelity, BlackRock, all with Bitcoin ETFs and a few others. They're buying more than $9 million of Bitcoin a week. Money is flowing into this. This doesn't count the government purchases. So demand for Bitcoin has continued to grow. The supply of new Bitcoin is continuing to decline. There's 3 million Bitcoin in existence. There will only be a total of 20 million Bitcoin created total. So almost all Bitcoin that will ever be in existence has already been created. So with all this new demand, what's it going to take to fill it? Well, you've got to have supply. And you've got people like me that own Bitcoin who are not selling it at 90,000. So what's it going to take for me to sell Bitcoin? Will I sell it at 95 or 100? No. Will I sell it at 150? No. Don't talk to me till it gets to be $1 million. Am I alone in that? Probably not. So if you look at the intrinsic value, if you look at the trends, if you look at supply trends, if you look at demand trends, it's not hard to imagine that Bitcoin is going to continue to increase in value over time, perhaps very significantly. So let me ask you now, would you now consider buying Bitcoin?
I think you need to answer some of these
Almost everybody in the class said yes. So Ellen is just dying, so let's answer some of the questions. All right. Have you learned nothing from the trucker protests in Canada? Very easy to turn off electronic currency. Actually, the truckers weren't using Bitcoin. They were using Canadian dollars in banks, and the government cut those off. So it's really pretty easy to cut off banks. They couldn't withdraw cash from their banks. They couldn't use their cards. It was all shut off to them. As Clay said, they are monitoring your electronics and can take it. Yeah, that's the thing about Bitcoin is they can't take it. And they can't shut it off unless they shut down the whole internet around the world. So it's kind of a different level of control there that they would have to exert, that they can't exert. Of course, they can shut off the internet. It's not just shut down the entire internet, not just shut off your access to it, because I can access and move and control my Bitcoin with a flip phone using cellular service. I can do that in any country in the world with just a cheap flip phone. Carson, another benefit. I can put Bitcoin on a software wallet, wipe my phone, go to another country, download the wallet, plug it in, seed phrase, I have my Bitcoin. Yes. As long as you've got your Bitcoin, you can recreate it anywhere in the world, even if the government comes in and wipes your computer. And Bitcoin is increasingly accepted around the world. The BRICS Trade Consortium I mentioned earlier, all those countries who want to get off the dollar. Well, they just met a week ago and tried to come up with a gold-backed currency. Couldn't do it. So they're still using kind of this basket of currencies to do trade in, but they're already starting to experiment with using Bitcoin like to buy oil. Saudi Arabia is moving off the dollar in oil pricing. Well, China's using Bitcoin to buy oil. Some of the trades between China and Russia are in Bitcoin. So I wouldn't be shocked, and I kind of expect BRICS to maybe in the next 6 months or year move to doing all their trades in Bitcoins. It's neutral. No one country is favored. No one country can control it. And it has pretty much well-established international values. And as the demand for it grows, the volatility of it will probably decrease. Hold up on ETH. It's a different cat. It is. Ethereum, the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is in the structure. Cliff Notes version, you can basically use contracts with Ethereum. You kind of think of it as an if-then statement. If this happens, then this happens. So if somebody, like on a website, punches a button to order something, and then it comes up, pay in Ethereum, it's paid, Ethereum will, send the proper commands and the item will be shipped. So you can do contracts in Ethereum. Bitcoin doesn't have that capability. There have been issues with Ethereum being shut down for some users. It doesn't run the same. The nature of it is a little different, but over the past years, it has spread, and some of those issues have been fixed in revisions. Right now, it's a pretty stable operating environment. Next question. There's also a way they can monitor your communication and record all of your keystrokes. Yeah.
Oh, that's not the first one. Hang on.
GB would like some Bitcoin for Christmas. He says he's in.
Okay. He's on the nice list.
He is definitely on the nice list. Back to truckers. Trudeau tried to get software wallets to shut off truckers' access. The response they got was, "We can't, too, fuck you." Yeah. But he was able to shut down any transactions coming from or to their bank accounts. Canadian bank accounts, not the American ones. Jane, oh, there's a way to do it. My mom was on the team that developed the router technology for the internet, and there's a way to do it. In terms of shutting down the internet around the world, the US used to control the protocol for that, but under Obama, it surrendered it to an international community and standard. Now, is there still a way to crash it all around? Maybe, but can you imagine what would happen to the world and the reaction and the crisis everybody would be in if everybody's internet around the world was shut down? And once it was restored, you still have your Bitcoin value. You still have your Bitcoin account. It's still saved on a million different computers. That's what makes it unhackable. Is nobody can hack in and simultaneously change 1 million computers at a time, at the same moment in time. And the Bitcoin system, if one computer is hacked and changes and doesn't agree with the rest of the system, it's kicked out of the system permanently. It's blocked. So there is a severe penalty for anybody trying to alter the Bitcoin blockchain.
And then this one.
Also, a way they can monitor your communication, record all of your keystrokes. Yeah, if it's has a software chip in it, if it has a BIOS in it, it's hackable. So that's your TV, that's your phone, that's your computer, that's your Alexa, whatever.
Your security system, alarm system.
Yeah. It is all available to the NSA, DIA. And I'm sure M5, I'm sure the FSB, successor to KGB, all has similar skills. China has similar skills. There's a report out now that China had actually hacked Trump's, Harris's phones and could monitor their conversations. And they all have and they have secure phone, quote unquote, secure phones. Carson. Okay, Jane, you're not ready for the future.
Stop
Fine.
it. We're not doing that. We're not calling anybody out.
No, but I don't think Carson's actually calling her out. It's just kind of funny. Like I say, if we love you, we'll give you hell on here. That just happens. But we don't get personal. Remember, the internet was developed for the military uses, so they had to build the code in. Yeah, but now everybody knows the protocols, has the access. There's nothing really deeply embedded or encoded in the basic IP protocols and in the standards. They become international. So, you can control points, but there are other routes to the same computer that could be used. So unless they literally physically shut off people's access to the internet, there's still internet around the world that's going to work, and your cell phones will still work. And again, if people's access to the internet is shut down, they're not going to be able to get their money in a bank anyway.
It's not a stupid question. By the way, they have to have your account number and your key code and all the things that you need to access the account. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. There's no you don't leave it in your will. They don't have to go through probate.
No.
It's just if they have the information, that's it. You do have to give them the key numbers, but if you want to put it in a safety deposit box and your attorney give them the key once you pass away to the safety deposit box, then that's probably a good way to handle it.
Yeah, you can just attach a letter to your will. It's not in the will, so it's not legally part of the probate process. It's just attached to your will, the handwritten letter, and you tape a key to the bottom and say, here's the box. And then in your safe deposit box, you leave your seed code, you leave your, your little, it looks like a jump drive, but this is what you plug into your computer and then buy and sell Bitcoin off of. Now you can do it directly through the web, but if you want to, as Carson's, was talking about, hold it in a in a cold storage device. This is what's known as, or this is just a USB drive, but this is what it would look like. So you carry this wherever you go in the world, or you have your information encoded on your phone, carry it with you wherever you go in the world, or you write down your seed phrase. I have literally a titanium card that I slide the letters of my seed phrase in. It won't burn. So if, wherever it's stored catches fire, it's going to survive. It's embedded in the BIOS of the routers. Well, again, a lot of routers now are made in China, and they have their own BIOS. They don't have to use the same BIOS that American manufacturers did for years. If my mother was still with it, I would have her explain it to you, but unfortunately with her advanced age, she's not there anymore. No, I understand what you're saying, and I agree that's the way it was in the past. My point is that a lot of that has changed. There's been new technology, new innovations, new competitors, new builders, new designers, new chips. It's a different world than it was 5 years ago, even 10 years ago. So
right.
Bitcoin, my question is, would y'all now buy it?
Of course.
Anybody's mind been changed? I'm curious. Can you name me the... Go ahead.
It's 9:15.
She says in the saddest of voices. Okay.
It's past my bedtime.
That's all right.
You can keep going.
No, it's getting a little late. It's been a long day, but I will ask if anybody has any questions before we fade out. We do very much appreciate you joining us tonight. If you've got some questions or other comments, email us moffatonmoney@gmail.com. Follow on Twitter, moffatonmoney. DM me there.
Carson bought some yesterday. Excellent.
Yeah. So, even though Bitcoin has risen, is there realistic potential for it to go way higher? That's the question you've got to answer. So with, what we shared tonight, does that mean yes? Does that mean no? Whatever. You've got to make an informed decision. And you may not agree with things that I've said, or you may have a contrary opinion. That's great. The whole point is trying to help people make non-emotional responses and use the information they've got to make the best decision they can for their situation.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Dogs, feel free to send me a DM.
Do you have my personal message? We don't get to do those.
And I can give some ideas how to pass it on. So yes, if y'all want to, trade information, you can email us. If you don't want to post it publicly, email us and ask us to pass it on to the person. We have both of your emails. So we'll be glad to do that and put y'all in touch with each other if that's what you want. So just another community service that we graciously provide.
Dogs, I'm sure it's okay with Carson if I send you his phone number. I can do that.
Yep. Good night, everyone. I think that'll do it for us. We appreciate you watching. Appreciate your support.
Sweet dreams,
enjoyed
everybody.
Talking with you. Our time is up.
See you on Saturday.
We thank you for yours, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Good night, y'all.
Hit like, subscribe, notifications, do the things.
Do the things.
Mm-hmm.
Good night, y'all. Blessings to you.
Good night. Thank you.